This episode did a wonderful job showing us just how difficult it would be to spend 50 hours in a small room with a bunch of strangers, and the twist at the end, Hunter x Hunter, Episode 12, Last Test of Resolve.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and prospective hunters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you another review on another episode of the awesome, tantalizing, mind-bending tale of Hunter x Hunter 2011. Our last episode, of course, saw our unlikely five contestants, I guess you would call them, because Tompa certainly isn't part of that group of Killua, Gon, Kurapika, and Liario, but we saw them win their contest 3-2, but unfortunately, because of Liario and his betting and gambling their hours away, they have to go and spend 50 hours together in a small room, just whatever, sleeping, reading, eating, what have you. So that's where the episode left off, and that's where this one picks up. In the first half of this episode, although at first I was like, God, this kind of is dragging a little bit, I was thinking about it and what they're trying to do. Anybody who's ever had to spend any forced time anywhere, whether it be at a relative's house that you don't like, whether it be in a holding cell in jail, I'm not here to judge, I'm just saying, whatever it is that it seems like time actually goes slower when you're anticipating something. When you're waiting for that movie or that important date or that whatever, and it's only a few hours away, it seems like the time is just, the minutes creep by. When you're in school, when you're out of school, time flies by, but when you're actually in school, it's like, oh my God, it's only been 2 minutes. It seems like an hour. So this first half of the episode for me was really just trying to illustrate being with each other in this confined space for 50 hours, which is over 2 days, okay? Now, they didn't show a bathroom anywhere in there, but I'm hoping that they did have one so everybody didn't just have to piss in the corner, because that would make it an even more difficult 50 hours. But we see a little bit of bonding between Killua and Gon as Killua teaches Gon how to use a skateboard, and Gon teaches Killua how to use the fishing rod, and we see some resentment as well between Liario and Tompa. And Tompa, is just the dick with eyes that's kind of there just to try to do what he can to sabotage and piss in everybody's Cheerios. He likes to put his dick in the punch bowl and swirl it around a little bit. That's the type of guy he is. However, he does call Liario out on his bullshit, and he says, listen, man, take some responsibility. You went in there, and you not only lost the round, but you lost 50 hours of our time that we had to complete this test. Because, see, the whole idea, he explains about the phases, the exams, is that they take the average. So the average person would spend 72 hours getting through the Trick Tower, right? And each exam is meant to weed out about half of the applicants. So having 41 applicants, they're figuring there's going to be 20 or so that'll actually make it in time. There's some that'll, of course, excel and be able to do it like Hisoka in just mere hours, and then there's others that might take up the entire amount of time, and then there's others still that won't even be able to complete it because it's not enough time. Either way, we'll never know, because Liario went and screwed us out of about 2/3 of our time, and that's what he's trying to explain to him. So it's kind of that mental manipulation trying to get into him, and then he's talking to himself going, oh, now Liario's going to be wrestling with his self-doubt and self-loathing for the rest of this phase. Nonetheless, though, the 50 hours winds up eventually being up, and they wind up going through. They only have, whatever it is, 7, 8, 9 hours left. Back and forth, we wind up going and seeing the kind of round room that the ones who pass actually, have gotten into to signify they finished Phase 3. And we see little by little, a couple more straggle in here and there. And again, these characters haven't been fleshed out too much, so really for me right now, they're just kind of background noise, but we do see that. The second half of the episode, though, for me was really good, because there was a couple of minute kind of almost like a sped up, whatever they call those, not a monologue, montage, almost like a sped up montage of them kind of making these different goofy choices, and they got like this big Indiana Jones like boulder chasing them down one hallway, and then they're jumping for this, and Liario almost falls off of that, and they're going through all these different things. They finally get to a room where they have to choose to open the door or not, and it's 4-1 in favor of opening the door, and Liario just flips on Tompa. He thinks he's still trying to sabotage him, and those two are literally about to go fisticuffs and fight, Killua's like, this is bullshit, I'm moving on, this is almost the end. So they get to this final area, and it says it's the final time they'll have to use majority rule, and there's 2 doors, right? And they go and they explain, and it's explained that there's 2 paths, right? One path is the longer path, and it takes 45 hours minimum to complete, which we know they don't have. At this point, they only have about an hour left, but everybody can pass. The other path is quick and easy, right? But only 3 people can pass. The other 2 have to be handcuffed into the wall over here before the door will open up, right? So it's meant to turn everybody against each other. And I thought this one was really good because you wind up seeing everybody start to break down. And Gon's like ever the enthusiast and ever the positive thinker. And he's just like, let's just choose this path, the longer path. And they're like, and the Killua's like, dude, don't be an idiot. There's no time for that. I appreciate you trying to be cool, but this is how I see it. Me and you are going and maybe one other person, but we're going to get out of here. So Tompa goes and jumps the gun and winds up grabbing an axe off the wall and starts attacking everybody. And him and Liario are going at it, you know, going just looking like they're going to beat the shit out of each other. And then it's great because you wind up seeing Gon still going, no, come on, we can still choose this path, come on, you know. And Kurapika is like talking in his head like, I wonder what's going to happen. What am I going to do? Killua's like, okay, I guess we're going to fight. And he's like, and he pulls out his crazy little finger claws. And I'm thinking, oh shit, this is going to be bad. Now the genius in the way the episode was done is it then cuts away from it at that point, and it leads you, the viewer, to believe that they're all beating the shit out of each other and that 2 people are going to be handcuffed or killed. And I'm thinking it's probably going to be Liario and Tompa, and that the other 3 are the stronger ones. They're going to make it and survive, right? So then you go and you go back to the round room where everybody's in, and like 21 or 22 contestants have passed. 21, I think. And then 22 comes through, and he's like huffing and puffing, and he falls over and dies. Literally dies right after that. And they're like, he's dead. And there's other guys that are like, you know, better to stay alive and, you know, for next year than to die and pass this year, you know. Nonetheless, though, there's 1 minute left, and the door opens up, and all of a sudden we go and we see the feet of Kurapika, Gon, and Killua, right? And pretty much in that order, I believe. And we see the 3 of them, and I'm thinking, okay. And then they go and they show them. They all look kind of battered and beaten and everything else. And if you remember, they only had an hour to beat the shit out of each other or whatever they were going to do, you know? So then as the clock's counting down, there's only 30 seconds left and everything else, all of a sudden emerging from the darkness and just done in a very, very wonderfully cinematic mode for something that was not, it was shot in a very cinematic way for something that wasn't a movie, right? All of a sudden, then you got, you've got Tompa and Liario kind of holding on to each other, all beaten up and bruised as they're coming out, and everybody starts looking at their hands and talking about these blisters they've got and everything, right? And I'm like, what the hell, blisters, right? They all wind up going and revealing that what happened is they all wind up choosing. They chose the longer route, okay? Gon wound up figuring it out, and as they were battling and everything else, Gon wound up getting them all unanimously to decide to choose the longer route, and then they went and they took all the weapons that they had on the walls, the axes, because like the walls of this room were lined with like axes and swords and scimitars and every other thing you could imagine, right? Grim Reaper type scythes, you know? They wound up taking the axes and hammers and everything else, and they wound up going into, because the doors are next to each other, right? They go into the longer path, and then they went and they took their time, well, not their time, but they wound up beating down the wall and basically cutting a hole in the wall to go and take the shortcut for the easy path, which wound up being some kind of slide that slid them down to the end and made it just in time. And I thought in my mind, I thought, man, that is genius. And they even talk about it at the end. Kurapika is like, you know what? This whole test was meant to, this part of the test was designed to push us against each other, right? Because even Tompa was saying, you know, Liario, if you hadn't, you know, screwed us on the 50 hours, we could have taken the long path. So it's all this like mental infighting and dissension amongst the ranks. And what I really, really enjoyed was that the way you thought it was going to go, right, was going to be the small-minded, let's beat the shit out of each other way. No, Gon and that simple genius, man, just figuring out that, hey, you know what? Let's take the long path and just cut a hole through the freaking wall, right? We got all the weapons, let's do it. There's nothing saying that we can't do it, you know? Nothing in the rules. And I really thought it was genius, and that's how the episode ends, and it ends in very cool fashion where the narrator is talking about that I passed the Phase 3 exam. There's 25 that wound up passing. One, of course, died, and then the door opens from this round room. We see sunlight and everything else, and they've now beaten Phase 3 of the exam in the Trick Tower. But really, for me, the significance of this one was that Gon is like a genius. He was able to keep his cool in the heat of the moment when everybody else was, like, I mean, even Killua was just like, all right, I guess we're going to fight, you know, and Kurapika was like wrestling, you know, with his inner demons, you know, should I fight, should I not, is there another way to solve this? Gon was just straight up like, nope, this is the way we got to do it, and he's actually upset that it took him like an hour to figure it out. Like, that's how they had to do it, so... All in all, a great episode. Hands down, one of my favorites so far, because although the first part was a little bit slower, it was meant to show us how monotonous and how slow and boring it would be to be in a room with three or four other people you hardly know for over 2 days. And they kind of did a good job of depicting that in just about 10 minutes. So I really loved it. My episode question is, really, what were your thoughts overall on phase 3 of the exam? And what were your thoughts on going and just this kind of simple genius move of breaking through the wall after they choose the long path, man? Leave your answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you prospective hunters in phase 4 and the next one.
Come follow me on my other channel as well as on Twitter and Facebook.